Welcome one all, my name is Tawess and today we are going to tackle the angriest internet provider in the Indesphere. They're also the only internet provider in the Indesphere. I'm talking about ComStar and their ComGuard. Probably the most ostentatious company of mechs you ever run into, since they for the most part are painted white with gold. I mean, of course, when they're actually out fighting they are using the proper camos, but their parade scheme is gold and white and gold. And that makes perfect sense when you're supposed to be a neutral, friendly organization whose mechs are basically a standing guard. So yeah. How to do this then? Well, we start off with spraying it a bone white, off-white, khaki. Because I mean, if you're going to paint it white, it's no point starting with black. So some sort of white base. And then I hit that with a layer of watered down, soft tone in this case, from Army Painter. And but any sepia toned wash would work. And the idea here is to enrich the shadows and the lines between the panels without having to do any extra work. And once that's drying good, I hit it with a lighter but not pure white, a bit of an off-white, in this case a slightly khaki color, bone color. And the idea is to take away the texture and the patterns that comes with dipping a model, basically. Applying a wash over it. You get these coffee stains and stuff. To get rid of all that, I'm basically putting on a layer of a slightly off-white to get something to paint the regular white over. And I'm terribly sorry that you can't see what actual white shade this is, because I used too much light. I was not really thinking this through and used my regular light setup, and it was too bright for the white. So, terribly sorry about that. We'll work on that next time. Anyway, the technique I'm using here is pretty simple. I load the brush up with a watered down paint, not exactly 50-50, but not 1 to 3 either, so somewhere in between there. And then I just swipe it very softly, gently, making sure to not get it in the cracks between the panels. The idea here is to give it a chance to apply, but not overly saturate the shadows and panel lines that we have. And make sure you do this to use layers, soft layers, plenty of layers. Do not rush this step. Soft sweeping motions. You can sheet a bit on the underside of arms with your shadows and go a bit thinner, but I think I applied somewhere around 5 or 6 layers before I got a good solid white onto this. And of course you can always sheet this a bit more by simply spraying it white and be done. But you have to do panel lines instead, and panel lines take time, and we do not want to spend more time than we need. You have enough going on as it is to then have to sit down and spend time on panel lines. So you do this method instead. Also painting the arm mantlets behind the torso of the mech, good idea. Basically, the idea, as I said, is to get a solid layer to apply the pure white onto, so that we can actually differentiate a bit between layers. You could also in theory just do more layers of pure white. I feel they lose a bit of warmth in it, but you could also be going for that. You could use a cold white or a greyish white as a base and then build up from there to get a mech that is a bit more cold. But my thinking here is that this mech is designed to look friendly, neutral, and for as much as a 10 to 14 meter war machine can, look less threatening. Because ComStar are supposed to be the good guys, they are supposed to be nice. Anyway, so basically what we have here then is the point you reach where you're going to start half-assing it. Why? Because it's boring to paint this way. And as long as you focus details on the top of the mech, you can actually sheet a bit on the legs. You can half-ass the legs a little bit, because people won't be looking as much onto them unless you draw the attention down there with patterns or stripes and stuff like that. So yeah, as you can see, put on a layer of slightly off-white, And as I said, the problem here is that I'm gonna make it hard to see the pure white. And I'm also not gonna show you the entire process because I don't think you want to see me sit here for 2 hours painting a mech white. That is not as fun as you think. If you want to do that, by all means tell me and I'll put out an uncut video, but I don't think you want to watch that. It's not as fun as it sounds. Mostly because I'm not talking anything while I do this. So, I mean, some people would see that as an improvement, but you know, it's what it is. Anyway, for this one, I think the paint was closer to 50-50 water and paint, and just go over it. Basically, it should reach the point where it almost starts to lose cohesion and separate. And just swipe it quickly over. Several layers. Repeat carefully. Make sure you get a really nice gloss finish. Because the idea here is that these mechs are not combat mechs. They are parade mechs. They are glorified guards. They are the Royal Guard. Sure, they can fight when they need to, but for most times they're gonna stand outside of communication centers and look menacing. Well, technically not menacing even, just give you a sense that you should not mess with the communication centers. So I want them to have really crisp, clean and smooth white. You can very easily do a patchy white, but I wanted this to be a smooth white. So the best way to reach that point, apart from airbrushing, is to just paint several thin layers. Let it build up, dry a bit in between, put on more paint until you have a solid, nice finish. And this is where you're supposed to be careful also, because if you pressure the brush too much when you do these layers, you're going to push paint in between the panels, covering up the shadows in between the panel lines. You have to re-add those later. And that is not as fun as it sounds. So yeah. Now, once you have a few solid layers down, you can technically start dry brushing a bit on, because it's just going to keep on building up. But as you can see, we now have a fairly smooth and coherent white. And this goes for any color with low opacity, like yellow, orange, some browns, some metals. Several thin layers are the way to go with this. It's boring, but it is the way to go. Now, of course, the ComGuard, as mentioned, is just a security force. They're only there to provide security for the ComStar offices. They're not an army. They do not have a secret stash of mechs just waiting to be used for any nefarious purposes. We promise they're just a telecommunications company. Yeah. Right. Anyway, as I mentioned, the white is only part of it. The other part is gold, and there's no defined way where to put that gold, so I'm basically just going to put the gold down wherever I like to. So I put on antennas, some trims, just like given the idea that these are mechs that are both maintained by a very rich organization and also see so little combat that perhaps even plating with gold, some gold material, is doable. I mean, imagine that. Have a parade scheme with a with a plated complement. I mean, that's expensive, and takes time. Of course, that is still pretty nice. So I played first a layer of a fairly dark bronze color, and then hit that with a highlight of a shinier gold to give it a bit of depth. That's sort of the easiest way to do it. You could also go 3 steps here, really dark, then hit that with some brighter, and then finish off with bright gold. I also painted the cockpit gold, just tied in with the rest. And as always, wrap up with painting the weapons silver. Again, going with the theme of things that don't see combat, I painted the missiles and the guns with a very bright silver and did not wash it afterwards. I usually do that, but in this case I didn't do that, just to make sure that it had a good solid hit. And then, of course, to finish up the whole Maserati look, we gave it a coat of brush on varnish to make it shine. So, now time to move on to the beauty shots. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, and do play fair. Bye!